Hello and welcome to 724. We're still on the upcoming Oyo State Independent Electoral Commission statement that April 27, 2024 will be the date for the local government election throughout the 33 local governments in the state. And the conversation is still ongoing. We've been joined in the studio now by a former Minister of Communication. I want to say comrade. He's actually Barrister Adebayo Shittu. Well, I like to call him Comrade Adebayo Shittu. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Everything sits well with me.
The All Progressives Congress, how ready is that party for the upcoming April 27th election?
Well, I am proud to say that the same spirit that our party members use in attending to the presidential election, particularly to ensure the success of the candidature of our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is still very much with us.
Are you clearing all the 33 local governments?
Well, you see, it would be preposterous for anybody to beat his chest. Like some people in the PDP would do, and they will say the 33/1 or whatever they do. Because human beings are involved in elections. People would want to be convinced to vote for, your party. And so the best that we as party people will do is to continue to campaign, for our candidates, among the populace. And I can assure you that we are more than set to go. Various committees have already been set up, and all, significant leaders of the party are being mobilized to ensure that the campaigns go down to the grassroots, to ensure the success of our candidates.
It's comforting to hear that, because what a lot of us have observed is that there's general apathy around town towards the election from the political parties, even the ruling party candidates, as well as the electorate. But it's a good thing that you're telling us this. At the last election, which was held last year, the sitting governor's party, the People's Democratic Party, took about 31 local governments out of the 33 local governments. Don't you think there could be a domino effect?
Well, you see, one thing which, happened at that election, I want to say that our loss at that election was self-inflicted.
Self-inflicted.
It was self-inflicted. A number of our party men went out of their way to work against the interests of our party for one reason or the other. I don't want to go.
No, we won't even go into those details. Someday we will still bring you back to look at that.
So, but I think we are now more united as a party.
Really?
And I think a lot of people have seen the folly in their actions at that time. And
so the houses
to that is the fact that we have seen that the current state government have virtually strangulated the local government system. Strangulated in the sense that constitutionally, the local government system is supposed to be the third tier of government.
Yes.
And when you say local government, what is implied is that this setup at that local level must not only be local, but they must also be governments in all perspectives. The last local government election was more of a farce. It was a fiasco. People were not allowed to express their genuine desires as to which people should occupy the local government. And you know very well that that local government election came when we had a subsisting caretaker committees at the local government level.
Appointed by
appointed by the governor. And he continued to ensure that when money is from the federal account comes to the local government, they don't get to the grassroots. More than 90% of the monies are retained within the state government coffers, and only about 10% are given to them. Even for the 10% given, every contract, if any of these local wants to buy a proof, there's a consultant who is assigned to do the work of the local government chairman and of the local government. Today, people have even forgotten that there are legislative houses at the local government level.
Yes.
So we are hoping, and it will be a basis for our campaign to say, look, We want to change the trajectory. We want to revive the local government system. We want to ensure that the local people's voices are heard with regard to who becomes a chairman of the local government and who becomes a councillor. And we would insist, once we win election, we would insist that monies meant for local government are not retained, by the state government.
Do you think this position that you have articulated from your party, the APC, will resonate with the people, considering the fact that for 8 years you were in government at this Oyo State, and all of these allegations you've made against the PDP government presently, virtually almost all of them were the same policy that the APC governor, that the APC government practiced for 8 years.
Well, you see, two wrongs never make a right.
Okay.
If Ajimobi did the same thing and he was voted, against, at least what he stood for was voted against, you expect a new dispensation to do things differently. If that new dispensation has proven to be worse than what Ajimobi did, then there's need for a rethinking.
But some would say that your party members were mute.
I would always speak the truth, no matter the consequences of it. If things have, because we must be making progress as a nation. We have chosen the path of democracy. And when supposedly educated people get into power, you expect them to do better. But you see, because of corruption, people in power find it difficult to keep their eyes off other people's possession. I mean, how would it feel if the federal government were to be compromising the resources meant for state government? Would the state governors be happy? If they would not be happy for their resources to be compromised by an almighty federal government, why should they do what they would not allow to be done to them? Why should they do it to the local government system? What is good for the goose should be good for the gander.
And I must add also that this practice is nationwide.
It's unfortunate, but
all the 36 state governors
there must be a starting point to revolt. And I want to believe that in Oyo State, by the grace of God, once we win the forthcoming elections, we would initiate radical transformation in regard to the integrity of the
You sound so confident
system.
that your party would.
We are working hard. We are working hard.
But Prince Dotun Elade has said that Governor Seyi Makinde's good performance will ensure.
He did. I mean, I am charitable sufficiently to admit that in certain areas, Seyi Makinde has done well. I will not shy away from that. But I am saying we are talking about local government system now, and I will say that he has certainly scored less than 20% in the maintenance and sustenance of the local government system. The corruption at that level is unpardonable, and we must do something to bring about a change.
Talking about doing something, what would your party be doing differently?
By the grace of God.
Yes, sir.
Of course, Makinde will still remain as governor after the next election. But our party would insist, even if it requires going to court, challenging the current status quo to ensure that the local governments are allowed to breathe.
Okay.
But I can assure you that we will not allow, the existing corruption-infested management of local government to continue.
What if you win? What if the chairman from your party that may be elected, what if they come to the PDP?
Why would they come to the PDP when they know that we are seeking to liberate them?
We have precedents.
Well, if it happens, it happens. But the people would be the judges.
Who brought them there?
Yes, the people.
So let's look at the process, the electoral process. It began about a year ago, exactly a year ago. So far, have you identified any lacuna that needs to be addressed? Well,
you see, the only thing that we are insisting on now is that, unlike what happened during the last local government election, now we are insisting that elections must be completely free, completely transparent, and there must not be any executive intervention by way of any lawless.
The OYSIEC chairman has promised that it will be free, fair, and credible.
Well, we are hoping that it will happen. I want to believe him because, number one, he's a senior advocate of Nigeria. Number two, he knows, and I told him one-on-one, that he has a name to protect. He should not allow himself to be used as cannon fodder, particularly because he has never been a politician. I concede that to him. I've had his word, I've had his commitment, and I want to believe that he will do right.
In the last election that you talked about, that you said gives you some discomfort, what were the things you identified there that you would not want to repeat?
They just wrote figures.
Well, that's an allegation.
Well, it was
never been proven in any court.
We just decided to just ignore, but this time around we are going to sit.
Why did you ignore them?
Well, that was our decision at that time, that the party, remember that we were just coming, out of an electoral process for the state, at that time. And for a number of reasons, the party didn't consider it.
Could it be because at that time the party had a number of leadership challenges?
Well, we had, certainly.
Three of its major leaders died suddenly.
Certainly we had challenges, in the management of our own party at that time. I mean,
it was fractured.
I considered that, and it was because our own party was mismanaged at that time by the leaders. I mean, come to think of it, we had primary elections to nominate candidates for local government elections. We had candidates for House of Assembly elections. We had candidates for House of Rep and Senate. But our leader at that time, may God forgive him, is dead now. He decided to impose his own list of nominees, and people revolted against him and against those he imposed. I mean, that was a real challenge. But
has that been addressed now?
By the grace of God.
Sufficiently?
By the grace of God. By the grace of God.
And it gives you a lot of comfort?
By the grace of God.
Now, there is a threat that was reported in the media a couple of weeks ago from the secretary, the state secretary now of the APC, that if BVAS machines are not used, the APC will boycott the election.
Well, I think we've gone past that.
Oh, really?
We've gone past that because it is clear that, the INEC, who has who is owner of the BVAS, is not in a position to provide it. And the chairman of OYSIEC himself, expressed that regret, that, it was becoming unrealistic to expect INEC. It was not that OYSIEC did not demand for it.
Yes.
But the fact is that INEC was not in a position, as, showed that it would not be able to provide them.
Yeah, but BVAS was provided for a recent election, as recently as I think 2 weeks ago in, I think, Bayelsa State or so.
Well, the latest that I have, by way of information, is that INEC was not in a position to provide, BVAS.
Although the fact that the state OYSIEC chairman made effort to request for BVAS should be an indication that it means business.
Of a sense of transparency.
But from your experience and knowledge as a legal luminary, and also somebody who is very conversant with political workings, as far back as 1979, you are a lawmaker in the state. So you will be conversant with procedures and processes and protocols. What should have been the best approach to requesting or obtaining those BVAS machines?
Well, you see, you are talking of, ideally, INEC didn't have a duty to provide any other independent electoral body with BVAS.
Statutorily?
Statutorily, they don't have any. I mean, and that
they are not duty bound statutorily.
They are not duty bound. And that is why perhaps some people are saying, look, why don't you even transfer all state electoral bodies' responsibilities to INEC, so that we have a uniform body for election? Because INEC conducts general elections once in 4 years. After conducting election in 4 years, for about 3 years, they go to sleep.
They're not busy.
So why don't you, obliterate everything, state election bodies? Let INEC handle everything. Different states will be having different local government elections at different times. And so, the INEC would be in a position to really cope. And then you would have to duplicate expenses, acquiring technology, acquiring electronics equipment, and all of that.
Every 4 years.
And I would want to support that.
We're talking LG election in Oyo State today, so I would like to focus our conversation on that strictly. The beavers machine would have given a lot of people comfort, especially the opposition parties, the smaller parties particularly, who may be strong in just one or two areas in the entire state. And one would expect that as a leading opposition party, the APC would they control the center and in some sense controls INEC.
We don't control INEC.
In some sense, it's independent, but you and I know.
No.
You and I know.
I reject that.
You and I know.
I reject that.
INEC is independent, but you and I know that the central, with due respect, sir, the central government,
a serious state government, desirous of being taken seriously, could have acquired beavers by itself. There was nothing wrong in acquiring beavers for their own electoral, if they indeed
maybe about 1,500 pieces.
You know,
are they that cheap? You were Minister of Communication.
After all, they spend much more money on useless things. So for something that has to do with the integrity of local government election, it would not have been out of place for them to expend money to acquire beavers for the purpose of being seen as credible supervisors.
Have you, your party, made representation to the state government to see this option? That you could buy this thing?
Before, nobody ever imagined that the state INEC, the OYSIEC, would not succeed in getting beaver. Because on their own, by itself, OYSIEC had made representation, and they kept promising that they will use beavers, and so there was no need for anybody to start suggesting that.
But now that it's clear that
it is clear, but
is it too late?
It is too late because elections are coming up in another 2 weeks.
Is it too late to obtain beavers and program them?
For a serious government, it may not be too late. But
okay,
as things are now, it will be foolhardy to expect that a government which is intended to manipulate things will now go ahead and start acquiring.
That's your thinking.
Well, it is very clear. If they start boasting that they will have 33.0, what does that mean?
Yeah, maybe they are confident.
How many people do you think will vote during the election? If you assume that of the 7 million population of your state, only 1 million will vote, could they know the mind of 1 million people who will vote?
Well, sometimes you may be confident in your performance.
Well, what performance? We are talking about local government now. What is the performance of this government, back in this government, on local government?
Going by media reports, there are lots of...
The jobs that local government should do at local levels have been abandoned. Nobody is... You go to any local government, they're either sleeping or absentee officials there. Nothing is happening. If any small purchase will happen, it has to come from somebody, a superimposed supervisor, or so-called consultant from Ibadan.
Well, you have said that, but the party boasting of their confidence to win, they must have been convinced that the work they needed to do, they've done it.
See what happens.
But let's look at the process. Are you confident with the personnel, the process of recruitment of the personnel?
I'm not aware of what processes they are using. All I know at least 2 people in INEC, the 2 lawyers there, the chairman and one Barrister Adebayo Shittu, and I want to guarantee their integrity, that they will do the needful, hoping that their wishes will not be overrun by the greed of some political kings within their system. Our party would monitor the elections very, very closely, and then we will have reports on our observation. We do.
In previous local government elections, even the ones that were organized by the APC, which a lot of people also alleged were fraught with a lot of irregularities.
I've considered that even during our time,
yes,
we had a governor who was leader of the party who would not allow free and fair evolution of candidates, and that was the undoing of our party at that time.
At that time. Hopefully the party has learned its lessons and will clean it out if that allegation is true. But what I was going to say is that at that time some of these irregularities could have been mitigated if there were sufficient representation of opposition parties at the polling unit, if you have credible agents who know their job, who know their onions, who will stand their ground and say, no, this is wrong. And if they do not agree with them, they will collate. I mean, that's how elections were won in the past. You are one of the people who are leading legal luminaries in our land, a former Attorney General, and you know how many legal cases you have fought in the political front. Because you were armed with your facts, you came back home. The Ladoja Adebayo Akala thing is one that I remember vividly. You had your facts.
Exactly.
And you went against even the central government. And you went against the police, the military, the DSS with your facts and came back with victory up to the Supreme Court. So there's no doubt that if you have some incontrovertible evidence,
we will do our best, we will be watchful, we will be vigilant, and I can assure you that we will do our best to ensure that Oyo State comes out tops.
Okay, let's look at the issue of voter apathy, because that's also very critical to the success of this process and also for us getting a very positive outcome over the long term. How confident are you? Because in recent years, voter apathy has been on a progressive decline.
Yes, unfortunately.
In the last 15 years, particularly in Oyo State. Because if local government elections were going to be held by now, in times past, we would see, the street will feel it. The state will feel it. You will see banners, you will see posters, the campaign rallies. Town hall meetings. I witnessed town hall meetings, even in this Fourth Republic. Yeah. I was a resource person at Aguamodu, way back 2002, where we had in the town hall, mechanics, everybody, the kind of questions I was asked after delivering, but all of these things are absent now. Yeah. And that's why some of us think voter apathy is a real problem.
Well, you see, for those who are candidates, they know they have a job to do with regard to sensitizing and mobilizing the electorate. Nobody will be competing for an election and will just sit at home. So I want to assure you, at least with regard to our party, you are aware that a number of committees have been set up and all top leaders of the party have been assigned responsibilities to mobilize.
So for me, if we leave it to the candidates alone, most of whom are not as...
No, of course, there's no candidate who would not have gotten the support, moral support of political leaders in his local government area.
True.
So this leader will not just sit back.
They will queue behind their candidates forcefully.
Exactly, we will do it.
So things are happening behind the scenes.
Of course.
Even though we can't see it on the surface.
In Shaki, about a month or two ago, we had a local government election. I mean, we had a
by-election, which APC won.
And we defeated the PDP there.
Yeah, you won that election.
Yes, we did. I mean, it was not just by sitting back or laying back. It was a lot of effort, mobilization, sensitization, and all of that. And that's barely 2 months ago.
Yes.
So if we've been able to do that, despite the fact that we didn't have the financial resources of a state governor, I mean, you can be sure that this local government election, we are prepared to work hard and win the elections.
The security operatives, how much comfort do you have?
Well, I can assure you that in Oyo State, we in APC, we have very, very enlightened and politically active, leaders. And we are also confident that with the current Commissioner of Police, we would have free and fair election. He has done it before. We trust that he will continue to do an independent job in providing, a safe and conducive environment for elections to come up. So we will continue to, trust.
So you're confident that harassment, molestation will not happen?
We are not strangers ourselves.
Okay.
We are not strangers to the environment, and we know. We anticipate what the enemy will do, our political enemies will do, and we'll be more than prepared for them.
Opposition politics is germane to deepening of a democratic process. And the opposition party in Oyo State are considered presently to be weak and divided.
You see, I have said it earlier. We had challenges in the last election, which I consider self-inflicted.
That's for APC.
Yes.
But 19 parties are taking part in the election, according to the OYSIEC chairman.
I can only talk
yeah, but one would expect that the APC would provide the needed leadership for other parties.
I've said it, and I'm trying to build I'm trying to build an argument.
Please.
I've said it earlier. We had challenges in, self-inflicted challenges in the party that had a hangover effect on us. But we thank God that as of today, we are up and standing. And,
I'm sure a lot of your party members will be happy to hear that the leaders are talking with one voice.
By the grace of God.
Because what you have echoed now, what you have said now is an echo of what the Minister of Power, Adebayo Shittu, said about a week ago, that whether beavers or no beavers, APC is going in and APC is going to win, and that's what he said. So many of your party members will be happy to hear this. But what a lot of commentators and bystanders like us have been saying is that they would want the APC, because of the resources and spread that they have, to lead other parties to come up with a virile opposition.
Our duty is to our party. We are not responsible for other parties, whether minor or major. And so we cannot go and control them.
Yeah, but are you not responsible to deepening the democratic process?
And that we are doing it as APC, not as joint political parties.
But there used to be Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, which you were a member many years ago. When you were in the CPC, you were a member.
I've always been in CPC, and I was then I became APC, and that's my focus.
But
that's my focus. In the last 8 or 10 years, I've never attended any multi-party, platform.
But before then, you did.
Yeah, but before then, that's how many decades ago?
About 1.5 decades ago.
New things are evolving.
New realities.
Yeah, new realities are evolving, and you could not even, guarantee that many of these so-called smaller parties are not being sponsored, by the government party. You wouldn't know.
So it's a slippery terrain.
It's so very slippery, and you have to be, concentrate on what we are sure of.
On what you are sure of. So talking about new realities, the socio-political reality of, the socio-political consciousness of the average Oyo State indigene today, compared to what obtained 2, 3, 5 decades ago, seem to be very, very much watered down.
Well, you see, if you look at the number of people who were playing politics 5 decades ago, and the number of people playing politics today, if you also look at backgrounds, in our time, in the House of Assembly, the 70s, 80s, most members were grade 2 teachers. Less than 1/4 were graduates. Today, I am sure that more than 3/4 of people in House of Assembly will be graduates. They will have had the right exposure and all of that. So it will be difficult to really have an arbitrary assessment of the quality.
If you permit me to come in, I was not even referring to the political players per se. Of course, the political players, but more importantly, the electorate, the community, in terms of their engagement, in terms of their position, in terms of their articulation. There seems to be a lackadaisical attitude, pervading,
challenges are
carefree.
Becoming different. The challenge today,
and that's why I said the socio-political reality.
The challenge today is about poverty.
It's about economic poverty or intellectual poverty?
Economic poverty.
Economic.
When somebody is economically poor, his sense of reasoning is negatively impacted. You must accept.
I agree with you.
It's negatively impacted. So,
yeah, but I do agree with you that hunger can take a lot of things away from a man. Exactly. May God help all of us. But if we allow you to persist, as we tend to have been doing the last 10 years particularly, the electorate and the people now in the community, things will get worse. And my interest is, how do we break this cycle? Yeah, poverty is taking away political consciousness, because the concern and focus of the Babale now will be how to bring bread back home, rather than how to deepen democracy. But all of us know that the political process affects the economic process willy-nilly.
More.
So how do we get our people to...
Well, I want to believe.
To sacrificially abdicate their focus on economic rejuvenation for political rejuvenation.
The efforts of the Tinubu government in seeking to revitalize the economic situation in the country. Maybe in another 3-4 months, things will begin to change.
I will interject, if you permit me, sir. I will interject. Someday we'll still talk about the economic programs of the presidency. I will bring you back here. But we're looking here about voter participation in governance, in electioneering at the grassroots level, politicking, governance, electioneering, government policies at the grassroots level, because that's the basis by which sustainable development can happen anywhere in the world. And the question I would want to ask that relates to that is there a sense in which one could say that the lackadaisical attitude that people have demonstrated towards local government elections and politics and governance is because they have lost confidence in the political establishment?
Well, in a way, if you look at the mishandling of the local government system, perhaps people could also be losing hope that even Baba Tetibo will cooperate.
Okay.
If we vote for a local government system, would say governments allow them to operate freely and fairly.
Okay.
As of today, unfortunately, our so-called local governments are neither local nor are they governments. They are not local because candidates hardly evolve as a result of primary elections at the local government level. Again, the supervening or intervening control of state governors on the operations of local governments again do not make the local governments really governments. So we must attend to these two issues. Let the democratic process take taproot in the various local government areas. Let us have a situation where a candidate or an aspirant to a chairmanship does not need the governor's support before he evolves. He must rely entirely on the local people for his emergence to become a candidate. And when he does win election, let all monies meant from the federation account, meant for each local government, be given to them in quantum, so that their legislative houses, the councillors, will be able to make and pass budgets for the local government, so that the local government chairman or the executive at the local government will be able to operate freely without the harrowing intervention of state government. A situation as of today, I'm telling you, maybe you are supposed to know. Anything that local governments want to do now, they have to come to Ibadan.
I'm not aware of that.
Well, you should find out. I mean, that should be a challenge to you. They have to come to Ibadan. And when they come to Ibadan to report, we want to do this or that, we need this, the governor assigns a so-called consultant, which are corrupt contraptions. These so-called consultants, are complete strangers to the local government areas. They were never voted for. Why should it be they that will be spending monies on behalf of the local government? These are very major issues that we should be concerned with. I feel very passionate about it.
You've made a point which I think to all logical sense will be validated by all logically sensible people. But there are those who will say that because of the antecedent of every political party that have had opportunity of governing at the state level in the last 15-20 years.
So we should close our eyes?
Okay, I was going to ask a question. Definitely, if things are wrong, we should correct them.
Yeah, we should. We have a duty.
It might be difficult for you to persuade the electorate.
No, it's not about the electorate now. The electorate's duty is to vote for candidates. Once they vote,
but they are not showing interest in the election.
They will vote. I mean, let's wait and see. They will vote. I mean, people, aspirants, candidates will certainly mobilize them. If they are not mobilized, how would they win? How would victories be achieved? I can assure you that people will come out to vote.
Let me give you an example, sir. There are a lot of criticism for the National Assembly.
Yes.
And those who wanted change, they wanted to change the major establishment parties, the PDP, the APC. They went for Labour and some other parties. Now, those representatives are in the House now, and a number of infractions and anomalies have been alleged, but we don't hear the voice of those guys. So, which makes a lot of people in the communities to say, there's no difference between all these people. They're just changing jerseys, like Chelsea, Shooting Stars, Rangers. So that's why I feel that it may be difficult for this, your proposition, which is brilliant.
Well, you see,
to resonate with the communities.
You know, when ideas come, they are sown.
Yes.
By,
yes.
by saying them out.
Yes.
It might take time to germinate.
True.
It's not the day you sow a seed that it will germinate.
True.
And once an idea is brilliant, those of us, the Yorubas have this adage, Allah gbede ti do ojú kan náà, ó ní tó fẹ́ mú jáde. A lot of people will start buying these ideas and will start reasoning. And those of them who have opportunity to make changes will take opportunity of their, being in office or in power to make changes. The fact that 999 people have refused to take action on a matter does not mean that the 1,000th person would also necessarily toe their line. So for me as a visionary politician, for me as somebody who wants real change, I will continue to advocate the need for us to change our ways and the need for us to keep advocating for better things to be done, so that one day God will bring the opportunity for real change to come up.
For us, I want to assume you mean the generality of the people. Am I correct?
With regard to
when you say the need for us to
for the generality of the people to change.
So not the politicians alone.
No, not the politicians. You see, again, what is the difference between politicians in Nigeria and the generality of people? Let me remind you of one thing.
Please.
In Nigeria, we call something Nigerian factor.
Yes.
What does it mean? Nigerian factor means corruption. It means compromises. It means shortchanging. It means greed and all of that. You see in Nigeria, when a thief is being taken away by the police, everybody will say no, ole. Let a number of those people saying ole have opportunity to steal. They will not behave differently. That's the unfortunate thing.
Your final word to the stakeholders in Oyo State regarding the upcoming local government elections.
My appeal is that elections are not a do or die thing. And it is often said that he who fights and run away will live to fight another war.
Yes.
Elections are not worth dying for. Elections only provide opportunity for us to be able to make our own contributions to development, social, national, and all of that. So, for those who plan to cheat, I want to warn them that God does not ignore any of our actions. There are a lot of politicians who think God has no business looking at our political activity. But that is wrong. We will account for everything that we do.
On that very spiritual-philosophical note, I would like to call it wraps on this session of the conversation. The conversation is still ongoing. Thanks for coming today.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, sir.